Hey, what's up there? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a whale that bought a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. Okay, and then we're also going to be talking about some fantastic news and an update to potentially a new Bitcoin price target by the end of next year. But before we get to that, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like, and be sure to share this video. Okay, I'm very close to 300 subscribers, and it would be awesome if we could get there before the end of the year. I can certainly dream and I can certainly hope. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So Bitcoin over the last 24 hours, not too impressive. We've kind of mostly moved sideways. You can see here on the Fear and Greed Index, according to CoinMarketCap, we're sitting at about a 70, which is greed. But I want to jump straight into the big news, and that is our whale, Michael Saylor, the man himself, announced MicroStrategy acquired additionally 16,000 more Bitcoin, okay? 16,000 more, 16,130 Bitcoin at an average price of 36,785, okay? And now basically they have just about over $5 billion of Bitcoin at about $30,000. Now, what's been absolutely crazy about this strategy is that it's worked so far, and it is like the epitome of the dollar cost average strategy, okay? He's sitting happy at $30,000 per Bitcoin cost basis. All right, that's just insane. You take a look at our Bitcoin price right now; we're sitting at about $38,000. So if you can actually see where we are compared to the average of all his price, it's honestly pretty impressive. And especially when you consider where we are compared to the all-time highs, which again, all the way back up here to about 69,000, there's still a lot of room left to move up for Michael Saylor and his Bitcoin DCA strategy. He could potentially be looking at a 2x or more by the time that it gets to all-time highs. So when it comes to our Bitcoin chart TA for today, I want to actually back out a little bit and talk about the weekly instead. Normally I look at the daily, but I want to bring it out. We're going to take a look at the long-term chart TA for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has actually hit it's in the middle of its 7th straight green week. That's right, 7 straight green weeks, okay? Rallying all the way from about 27,000 all the way up to about 38,000 where it is right now. Now, if we actually take a look at historically what that normally means for Bitcoin, we can go all the way back here to the beginning of the last bull market here. October of 2020 is when you start to see the other time that Bitcoin, or the last time Bitcoin has actually done a similar move, okay? We had 7 straight green weeks here back in October of 2020. This was actually the beginning of the bull market. In fact, by the time that they got to the first red weekly candle, it was only sitting at about 18,000. It rallied all the way up to 60,000 after that point, okay? And by the way, that was only the second time that happened in that year, because if you go back to earlier in that year of March of 20, you can see here that there is another period in which it had at least 7 green weeks in a row, all right? Again, we're going all the way from the low of about $4,000 all the way up to about $10,000, about $9,700. So what we've seen so far is that the buying momentum right now that we've seen is akin to what we've seen in the previous bull markets. Now, this right here, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will, frankly, because this is nothing short of amazing. And what I have here is our resistance levels still at about 38,000 or so. And above that at about 40,000 is where I would normally put the resistance. If we looked back and we take a look at historically what that means for Bitcoin is, I've drawn in the lines here. We can go all the way back to 2021, 2022, and 2020, and we can see that historically we've had a lot of time spent in this range, okay? Bitcoin is basically back to where it was back in June of 2021 after the massive run up in the early part of 2021 here. And it seems like it's in I would say, normalized territory right now for Bitcoin, as opposed to where it was back down here during the bear market, about 16,000, 17,000. We're basically back to where we were at the start of about 2021. So I think that's actually pretty impressive. It's almost like we've come full circle in the time that it's taken for Bitcoin to run up and then go back down again, and now we have come full circle. And now, what this means for the Bitcoin price is, I am looking for it to potentially move above 38K. We need to see a breakout and a confirmed breakout above 38K, and then I think 40K is easily on the potentially the next move. Okay, but that being said, on the weekly, Bitcoin still overbought. It's at 76 right now, RSI, and right now I think that would actually be a little bit of a hindrance for Bitcoin in order to move higher. It would probably have to pull back a little bit in order to let this cool off. But we have seen during bull markets, it does actually tend to move higher than that. During that 2020 bull market, it went as high as 94 on the weekly RSI, which is insane, quite frankly, just to see it move that high. And as a reminder, the top is 100, so went all the way up to 94 on the weekly. So that's showing extremely overbought. And next thing I want to go ahead and show you is the volume profile. Since we started talking about historical levels, you go ahead and take a look at the volume profile right now. And we're kind of in the middle of a large historical volume area. Okay, so when it comes to the Bitcoin price, we usually see it here at around 38,000 to 40,000. There's a lot of historical volume at this area. However, once you get above this level and you start moving at about 41,000, there's a lot less above those areas. In fact, Bitcoin seemingly tries to stick between about 30 and 40,000. Those are the largest areas of historical volatility and your historical volume. I also want to go ahead and talk about the liquidation heat map. Okay, so we've actually pulled this out and we've gone to a 1 week view of the liquidation heat map here on CoinGlass. And what we're seeing is something very exciting. Okay, this is, if we take a look at the largest level of liquidity, there is a massive amount of short liquidity that's sitting at about 38,500. Over $369 million worth of short liquidations would happen if Bitcoin crossed this threshold. If it crossed 38,500, you would see a huge liquidation of assets, and especially as we creep up here and we look up a little bit here, 38,600, there's another 300 million there. We look at 38,500 in that region, $357 million. Basically, there's this huge liquidity pocket right up here. So if we do see Bitcoin move strongly above 35K or above 38,500, and especially go up to 38,600, we can see some absolutely massive fireworks, massive short liquidations after that point. So Bitcoin traditionally is attracted to these large liquidity levels. Okay, so that's something to watch out for. Next, I want to talk about demand. Okay, so Crypto Potato reported a little bit earlier, basically, that the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF, which is not a spot Bitcoin ETF, it is a futures ETF, they have boasted $1.5 billion in Bitcoin futures contracts. So they've been buying these futures contracts because they've seen a huge amount of institutional interest in Bitcoin, and the only way traditional institutions can get involved in Bitcoin is by basically going to this ETF, and then they have to buy Bitcoin futures contracts. Okay, so that's amazing, right? It's up $1.5 billion. Okay, this is, and it's kind of unsurprising when you consider the fact that Bitcoin's back up to 38K. If you take a look at the Google Trends for Bitcoin search terms, you go ahead and take a look at the past 12 months, and it recently topped out here at about October 22nd to the 28th, hitting a 93. Okay, now as a kind of reminder of how Google Trends kind of works, it doesn't give you like a set number, but it kind of compares it with itself, okay? And if we take a look at the other times in which Bitcoin has been near these levels, we had that time back in March of 2023 during the banking crisis. People were Googling Bitcoin and they're looking basically at how to buy Bitcoin during that time. So we've seen a large amount of interest, especially it's kind of come down a little bit. It's about 60 right now, but it is still higher than we've seen at any other time other than about that March area. So people are searching Bitcoin, they're looking, they're educating themselves, and quite frankly, this is something you want to see ahead of a potential bull market next year. And next, I want to talk about that potential bull market next year, okay? I've reported previously about talking about the Standard Chartered Bank, their price target for Bitcoin, and they're saying $100,000 by the end of 2024. Okay, Business Insider picked this up, and they've basically said, hey, it's still well on its way to hitting that 100K mark at the end of 2024. Okay, now going from 69,000 to 100K would require a significant amount of liquidity, and I do think that in order for Bitcoin to hit this level here, we would have to see a Bitcoin spot ETF get approved. I do think this price target is definitely on the table, but it's going to take a Bitcoin spot ETF in order for this to happen. Without it, I don't think that we're going to reach 100K next year, but I could be wrong. I mean, we're basically trying to forecast out what's going to be happening in a year from now. Anything can happen, frankly, between now and the end of 2024. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the growth of long-term hodlers, all right? So we have the long-term supply of Bitcoin held by these long-term hodlers. It's actually kind of hit a new all-time high. Now they're sitting at a level of about 84.5%, okay? So what this means is that 84.5% of the Bitcoin supply is being held by long-term holders, which will hold until presumably the next all-time high. Okay, so these people are not in any rush to sell, and you can see it's only gotten higher and higher and higher as the year has churned on. Now, usually what happens is when you get to an all-time high, like what happened back in 2018 here, we have a rapid selling of the number of long-term holders. And back here in 2020, we also had a huge selling. If you go ahead and take a look at April of 2021, that was basically almost the peak of the bull market. That's traditionally when you see a huge drawdown of these long-term holders. They will sell at all-time high, and they will realize those profits, okay? So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this and just some of the amazing news that we've had lately in the Bitcoin space. The fact that Michael Saylor's out here buying Bitcoin, hoovering up as many Bitcoins as possible. And if you think that that he'll ever stop, I'm very curious to see if you guys think that, you know, at some point he's just going to stop. He's going to throw in the towel and say, hey, we've had enough Bitcoin, because personally, I don't think that's going to happen. But anyways, that's all I've got for you guys today. Hope to catch you guys on the next video.